Communist states in the Eastern Bloc are always portrayed as being hellholes in which every living second was in hunger and in pain. And there are cases of this, but it should be acknowledged for a lot of people this was not the case, and they lived pretty normal lives. But this misconception has led to many stories coming out of these countries portraying the so-called villainy and stupidity that was caused by the leaders. And so this brings us to, Romania. A Balkan country that is home to the Carpathians, the Danube, Dracula, ethnic tensions, your wallet being stolen, your flag being stolen, and during this time in which the story is set, Nicolae Ceausescu, the communist dictator of Romania. Ceausescu is a very controversial leader, and by that I mean everyone, and I do literally mean everyone, hates him, besides for very diehard Marxist-Leninists and maybe some Romanian nationalists because of his policies, but probably not many. He ruled from December 9th, 1967 to December 22nd, 1989, when he was captured by the army after a massive public protest in Romania, put on a mock trial, and then promptly taken to the back of the barn and shot in the head with his wife. He is usually a leader who is considered to be a totalitarian, and although this statement has flaws, one can easily describe the majority of his rule as this. And this is where the story I want to cover comes into play. Online, there is a tale that is told by a more centrist and right-wing folk about Nicolae Ceausescu and his wife and their management of a metro line in Bucharest, more specifically the Piața Romană metro station, which is part of the Line M2 in the Bucharest metro. Piața Romană is this famously dangerous-ass metro line that has little to no safety, and it runs from the University of Bucharest. This has led to in the past being used as an area for suicidal people because of the lack of safety and protection. So you must be wondering, why is this metro line so dangerous? Couldn't the leadership tell that this would happen? So the story goes like this. The designers were making the initial plans for the M2 line in Bucharest. They made the Piața Romană line as it would be useful for university students. When the designers came to Nicolae Ceausescu with the plans to build the line, his wife, Elena Ceausescu, butted in and said, "These kids are beginning to gain weight. If there isn't a factory near, there shouldn't be a metro line." Elena Ceausescu basically just pulled the equivalent of when your parents tell you how they used to get to school back in their day. So, the designers, seeing the stupidity of this, decided to build one in secret, making a minimal and dangerous track that would be hidden away till it could be used. Now, this story is amusing, but honestly, I've always found it to be a little far-fetched, to say the least. So I decided to look into it a little bit more, and honestly, my findings disappointed me. Surprisingly, looking up Nicolae Ceausescu and Metroline on Google Scholar didn't really come up with anything at all, so I turned to the next best thing. Wikipedia. Okay. I know what you're thinking. No, I did not use Wikipedia as a source. I actually just went to the source pages and clicked on let me check. 3 available sources. It's not looking good, guy. The first one I clicked on was an article. A report? I don't really know what to call this thing. This shit's Web 1.0. But even if the website doesn't look too good, and maybe I don't have much faith in it at all, that's not what we're looking into. I want to see real results. And to tell you the least, this source did not have very good results. There were only 3 mentions of other railways around Piața Romană and Piața Romană itself. And one of them literally just said, and I quote, "Most notably Piața Ioannini and Apănari Parari." I have no clue how to pronounce this, I'm very sorry. Which were the other lines apart from Piața Romană station, which don't have their fake ceilings anymore. And also Piața Romană, which has a history of its own.
That's it?
I don't think this was a very useful source at all, and it did nothing to help me. So I went to the next source, hoping for the best, but honestly, anticipating the worst.
Oh, God.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Patrick, this looks even worse than the last source. And that would be true. But there is a catch. Here's what I learned. What I learned was that the Piața Romană was not a part of the initial plans in March 26th of 1988, when construction actually began on the railways. But it was actually completed on November 28th, 1988. Now, this is unimpressive, as it doesn't really prove the story that I heard before, All the evidence here just made me think that there might have been a quick change in plans which led to a less than up to par metro station. But fret not, there is still one more source that can prove this story. And it did not. So, the last source is a bunch of tales from a man named Sorin Calinescu, who apparently worked on the Line M2. Somehow? I don't actually know. The source didn't say what he did at all, so maybe he could have been a worker, maybe he could have been an advisor or something like that. But that's besides the point. What matters is the story. So they tell the outline of the story that I'd shared at the beginning, with Elena and the university, and you know it already. And also tell some other stories related to the overall construction, like the ones where Nikolai Chchivsky gets angry at his advisors when they ask him to order escalators because he thinks they meant excavators. Now, although these are funny, there are two main issues I had with these sources. There were no sources besides the mystical and ever-mysterious Sorin Calinescu.
Small little correction. There is one other source in the article, but once again, it's another mystical dude named Gheorghe Udriste, who I can't find shit about. And it's just some dude who's some head of something while working in like a different railway building location. Here's a photo of him, or at least I think so. I don't know. I'm sorry.
And also that the dates from both of the last sources and the source from this seem to contradict. The source I outlined before stated the construction began and finished in 1988, while this one said in 1986 was when the construction began and was done in a 3-month time period, which is much less than the other source's full 8 months of construction. So, what does all this mean? I guess it means that I can't take anything that I've heard too seriously, as if the entire story and the entire part of my researches have led to dead ends or contradictions. I have no faith in finding an actual answer anytime soon. But what should you take of all this? Don't take everything you hear as true, especially when it comes to the Eastern Bloc. There's a lot of shit out there that just is not true at all, and doing extra research and stuff like this is important. And what I do believe is that there might be a lot of evidence for this, but from what I've seen, there's nothing, and everything I have seen is unconvincing. But I do choose to believe that Chchivsky doesn't know what an escalator is, and that is pretty funny. So that's really all. I know the production wasn't great, and I could do a little better when it comes to doing things like research and voice acting, but it was my first video, so be understanding, or not, I don't really give a shit. Post your hate comments below. Also, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe.